Yo, if you tuned in to me, you know you're watching Gully TV. I got a special guest today. This is a elder gentleman from my masjid by the name of Brother Wali. Brother Wali has a lot of insight and knowledge on things past and present. He's been in the Nation of Islam. He's been in Islam 30 years,
Yes, sir.
30 plus years. He served some time throughout state and federal correctional facilities. He wrote a book on his life called The Metamorphosis of Tank. Show the book, bro. And I got him here on Gully TV so we can just chop it up with him. Man, how you doing today, beloved?
I'm fine, brother. All praises to Allah.
Why don't you give me some insight on your background? Tell my viewers where you from and where you come up at. Go ahead.
Well, I was born in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm 72 years old. And I came up in an era. Let me correct that. I was born in North Philadelphia back in the days when a young girl got pregnant with no. So I was sent back in North Carolina, raised by my grandparents, had a sister. My father was very abusive, drank a lot. My parents were young, and subsequently my mother ran around with my father. So I was raised by my grandparents on the farm. At the age of 10, my parents came and got my sister and myself and took us to Newark, New Jersey. So I was basically raised in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay.
Okay, and went through some tragedy concerning my mother and my father.
Okay.
My father tried to kill my mom, and
Your father killed your mother.
he tried to kill her.
Okay.
And subsequently, we moved across town to what would be considered to be the neighborhood.
Okay.
That's where I came up. I was introduced to drugs in 1957, and always loved school. Never stopped going to school. I was hanging out with different guys in the streets,
Right.
gangs, and what that involved.
What year approximately was this that you were spending times in your street with interactions with
It started in 1957,
Okay.
and this is back in the days when Newark was very active in gangs, gang activities, different guys who were involved in crime. Newark was basically a city based on hustling. And that's how I came up, in the streets and going to school. And as a result of that, when I graduated from high school, I had been arrested a number of times.
Okay.
And I went to Air Force, got kicked out for drugs, and came back home. In 1965 with the state prison, Trenton State Prison, at the age of 21.
Is that Rawway?
Rawway is another prison. Trenton is the top prison.
Okay.
In fact, Trenton in those days was considered the most dangerous prison in America in those days.
Okay.
And I was able to take my street skills and survive. Make a very long story short.
Okay.
I was always the youngest in the crowd. Always the youngest. Always eager to be involved and to get down.
To get down.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
This is how Newark was. This is how Newark was. What was happening though, I was slowly getting away from myself.
Okay.
And the way I was raised as a child. And as a result of that, I found myself involved in a web of wrongness,
Okay.
whereby hustling became my way of life. And as a result of that, down through the years, I accumulated a 10-page record. I got clean here in Erie in 1992.
Okay.
And it stopped in...
Not to cut you off. What year did you say you arrived at Trenton State?
1965.
Can you, okay, you explain the social climate. It was a lot of, the movement was still around in the 60s. Explain what prison was like at Trenton State in the 1960s.
Trenton State Prison was prison in those days. An example, you didn't have a personal radio. You had a plug in the wall and an earplug to put in your ear to listen to what they played. And they played country and western
Okay.
because it was in South Jersey. In the yard, it was called a dusty yard because there was no grass in the yard. In those days, you didn't have personal TVs, radios. You went to the movies on a Saturday morning in the auditorium.
Okay.
Okay? And the idea of Trenton was to break it. This idea of going to Trenton. Trenton was considered the most dangerous prison in America. And to think of prison today and prison then, it's like night and day. It's like night and day. I found myself not only being institutionalized, but also being able to adapt to prison to the point where it didn't bother me.
Right.
See, it really didn't bother me. I was transferred from Trenton to Rahway, which basically consists of the nation. We were involved in the nation. Various activities in being in prison. There's really no basic structure in those days as far as rehabilitation.
Okay.
You know, you were locked up. You did various things within the prison. But as far as the idea of rehabilitation, that really wasn't the main focus. The main focus was punishment. And when I look back now, I could see that in a sense of speaking, I had become a state child.
Raised by the institution.
Raised by the institution. So this is my mentality that I had. And the result of that, even when I came home, I still had this mentality. Because it was never ingrained in my mind the idea about fully changing. In fact, back in those days, when you came home, you got a party. You was the hero of the block for a day. So the
Coming home from prison.
going to prison back then was a badge of honor, especially if you didn't tell on nobody.
Okay.
See, and so I'm saying my values were such that was based on that type of mentality. Of
You were serving time in New Jersey in the system in the 60s. Akbar Prayers from New Jersey. You had to come across him. Tell me your relationship.
Akbar and I came up together. We grew up together.
Okay.
Akbar was always a step ahead of us in hustling.
Okay.
And so
He always was about money?
always in high school, Akbar was about money.
No doubt.
He never drank, he never smoked, none of that. He was always about money. And being able to put himself in a position to get money. I remember when Akbar bought his first car. It was a Grand Prix. He bought a car with no license. This is how he was.
Advanced.
And I think we were like maybe 17, 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
See? So Ak was always ahead of his time.
Before the drug game became prevalent in the ghettos and hoods of the United States, in the 60s, what did a black man, for the most part, what would he be incarcerated for? What y'all was getting into in the 60s? If I spoke about the 90s where I came up, We all sold crack. That's what we did. What did y'all do in the 60s? Go ahead.
In Newark, it was bank robbery, hijacking, fencing, boosting, uh, various games in the streets, uh, three-card Molly, other hustling games. I wanted to be a drug dealer, but I was my best customer.
Okay.
See,
What was your vice? Go on and share it with him, bro.
I did a lot of robbing,
Okay.
a lot of robbing. Uh, I couldn't boost, but at that particular time I was using drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was involved in those situations in Newark and Harlem at that time. At that time, Harlem was an open drug market.
Okay.
Okay, and so
Who was in power in these times that you were visiting Harlem? Who was in power?
Nicky Barnes
Okay.
ran Harlem. Uh, there's a brother who played basketball very well named P.B. Kirkland.
No doubt. Pee Wee.
There were other brothers such as Frank Lucas, they were called the Country Boys.
No doubt.
Okay, and there's another brother named Hog Jaws. A lot of these brothers from North Carolina who moved to Newark.
Right?
So no matter what you were doing, there was always a clique who was doing that. Example would be, I would come out in the morning and I was asked, what happened last night? Did they get that truck?
Right.
So a lot of times I would get down with unloading hijacked trucks. No matter what it was to do in the streets, there was always always a way to make money. Newark was a hustling town. You know, the whole thing was about getting money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had a saying back then where guys would say, "Man, I wouldn't work in that pie factory to take some pies." This is how the mentality was such as far as being in the streets.
Okay.
And what happened to me was, as time went along, it became a part of me. You would never have thought that I came from a good family doing what I was doing in the streets. See? And so you get blinded in the streets. You actually get blinded to a point whereby you make doing wrong part of your lifestyle. It's what I do. It's what I do to get paid. So there's a gap in the streets, or it was in the streets, between getting paid and not getting paid. You always want to be the guys who are getting paid. Things have changed now. Things have changed now. One thing that was important back in those days, believe it or not, in the streets was respect. There were certain things you did. There were certain things you didn't do. There was a line that you didn't cross. Example, if I had a woman and we were partners, you couldn't date my woman. That was a line you didn't cross. I didn't tell on you. My first time going in prison, I went in prison for not telling. Really. So the codes, the respect, the way you carried yourself, all play a part in who you were. And so for a lot of guys, sad to say, they never made out of that mentality.
Right.
You know, I was blessed in that I was able to finally reach a point in my life at 37 where I surrendered. But there's a price that I paid for this, having been in Trenton State Prison, Rahway State Prison, and Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary.
How much time did you spend at Lewisburg?
I was at Lewisburg approximately 3 years.
Any notable inmates were there when you were there?
John Gotti, Pee Wee Kirkland, uh, a lot of guys I met from different cities. Out of Philadelphia, uh, the Junior Black Mafia was there. Out of Philadelphia, yes. At that time, there were Lewisburg was actually meant for hardcore prisoners. Very simple.
Okay.
The mafia, uh, various drug gangs from across the country, even from North Carolina. So in Lewisburg was a hookup.
Crime school.
Yes, it was a hookup. When you left Lewisburg, you had a library somewhere on a piece of paper where you had a connection no matter where you went.
Right.
See, and in fact, Lewisburg was so corrupt as far as corruption went. The mafia had their own section. Their own section where they cook.
So what we seen in the movies that was kind of accurate. They was in there cooking.
It's on time. It's very on time. Jimmy Hoffa, every year for his birthday, the yard was cleared. And only he was in the yard. His wife would hire an airplane with a banner that said, "Happy birthday, Jimmy."
What year was this, bro?
This is in 1978. I'm gonna say 78. The structure of Lewisburg was such that it actually was run in a manner. Example, you came out in the morning and you never came back to your cell again till the evening.
Oh, so y'all was
Wherever you were at during count time, that's where you counted.
Y'all was free with a fence around y'all.
Wherever you were during count time, that's where you counted. And it was run in such a way as to, they had torture cells. I call them torture cells. Some people call them lockup. I call them torture cells, really.
Okay.
Then they had 4 stages of lockup. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Stage 1 using the ground. With the windows painted, lights on 24/7. You couldn't flush the toilet unless they flushed it. You couldn't get water unless they gave it to you. You ate off a paper plate with a wooden fork. Half rations. So any guy who came out of Lewisburg, if he wasn't mean when he got there, he was mean after leaving there, because it actually turns you to a point where you actually began hating the whole system, and that's not rehabilitation.
Right.
See, that is not rehabilitation. So I look back at my experience and what I went through. I think Allah, I still got my senses. I based that on my faith in Allah and holding fast to my faith of Islam.
Right. Well, where were you at in Islam in the 60s? We had prior conversations, and the black man in America at the time was with Minister Farrakhan. He wasn't even Minister Farrakhan yet. Who was running the Nation of Islam in the 60s?
Wali Muhammad was the overall leader of the nation. But I was considered outlaw Muslim. In other words, we did various things in spite of being a Muslim.
We gonna talk about that.
We did various things in spite of being a Muslim. I was never able to fully grasp Islam until the second resurrection. This is when there was a split. And that split took place when I was in Broadway.
What was the split? Who did what?
What happened, they sent Dr. Naeem Akbar to Broadway.
Naeem Akbar?
Yes, he came to Broadway.
Okay.
To explain to us that there was going to be a change. That the Honorable Wali Muhammad was going to introduce us to al-Islam based on the Holy Quran. Years ago, in the nation, they would say, put the Quran on the highest shelf. Well, we would put the Quran in the shelf physically, not here.
Right.
So the split came when Warif Deen Muhammad introduced us to al-Islam based on the Holy Quran. And so there was a vote. There was a vote. Those who were going to follow Farrakhan, Mr. Farrakhan, or those who were going to follow Warif Deen Muhammad. And there was some violence in that.
There was some violence?
Yes. Some brothers got hurt. I choose to go with Warif Deen Muhammad because I've always been educational minded, but I was very curious at this point about true Islam.
Right.
And I'm not going to judge anyone. We have what's called freedom of choice. So there were those who continued under the leadership of Mr. Farrakhan, and there were those of us who went with Warif Deen Muhammad.
We're gonna backtrack a little bit. You said that there was a split. You went with Wallace Deen Muhammad, and others stayed on the path of the Nation of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Explain the technical difference why you chose to go with essentially the Sunnah.
I have been greatly influenced by El-Hajj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X. So my influence has always been affected by him and what he had brought. And when I read his book, the autobiography of Malcolm X, when I read the part about him taking a Hajj and being introduced to Islam based on the Holy Quran, and the message he brought back as far as race of people that he met of all different hues and colors who were Muslims. This also played a part in my thinking.
So Malcolm came back from pilgrimage, from Hajj, and he basically said the white man is not the devil.
True.
That's what he said, right?
Yes.
So that was basically the root of the issue that Malcolm had with the Nation of Islam.
I don't think so. My own personal opinion. I was there. I was in Newark the day Malcolm got killed. Okay. But there had been issues prior to this. Some known, some unknown. The issue came up concerning the Elijah Muhammad having children. Okay, that's not something that's a secret. That's
No.
well known.
Okay.
Okay, uh, there was issues concerning money. You know, there were some photos that were uh, circulated around, that was shown around of brothers in Chicago wearing chinchilla coats and chinchilla hats and Cadillacs, and Note was the same way.
Okay.
Note was the same way. Okay, you had brothers coming up to them house, Cadillacs and fur coats, and so I'm saying Malcolm was confronting these issues. Okay, he was confronting these issues, and I believe that somewhere, my own personal opinion again, the government saw the opportunity to intervene and bring Malcolm down. Because what Malcolm wanted to do, one of the issues that Malcolm had, that Malcolm was pushing, was taking our plight to United Nations. See, he wasn't talking about human rights. He was talking about the rights of a person, and the way we had been treated. We the only nation of people, group of people whose plight has never been taken to United Nations. This is what Malcolm was planning, and he has the backings of the African Union and various other countries who knew our 40 years of slavery in this country, and we had been under our conditions as far as that plight. And I believe this started a hornet's nest in the government, with those agencies in the government who play a part in taking down leaders who they consider to be dangerous.
Okay. Kind of like the counterintelligence program.
Certainly.
This is my issue with that, with what you just said, right? Malcolm X was killed by black men. The shooters were black. One of the shooters was from New Jersey. He's free right now, right?
Yes.
I don't see the correlation between the government and a guy from New Jersey.
The trigger man is only a trigger man. The one who truly pulls the trigger, you don't see him.
Okay.
See, you don't see him. And so when you study, really study this government, whether it be CIA, FBI, or other intelligence agencies, and the way they operate, you really have to question, how is it possible that Malcolm, being of his stature, small example, had no police protection that day he was killed? The police protection was pulled back. Malcolm had their recordings. I have a tape of the FBI coming to Malcolm and warning Malcolm to be a snitch, to work for them.
Okay.
And Malcolm refused. So, looking at the history of Malcolm and the issues he was presenting and bringing forth, example would be him and Martin Luther King were talking about collaborating. So the government is always aware of what they consider to be threats. These two men hooking up together, my goodness, there was no way on earth that the government, and I can continue to say the government because I know in my readings that the only way that these events could have taken place, the Nation of Islam didn't have the means to pull this off. Not to be able to pull off.
Okay.
Didn't have the means. The trigger men, yes, the physical trigger men came out of the nation. But
It seemed like the way that it was described, there was a diversion and then the shooting. Somebody with some type of strategic skill might have been behind that. I agree with you on that.
there's always been one goal that this government has had. Don't let them unite. That's a fear.
Right.
See, and if you look at our condition today, it's work. It's work. It's work. It's work. And so you look at the brothers who have been killed, like Martin Luther King, the Black Panthers who were killed, other civil rights leaders who were killed, even Tupac, if you want to bring it down lately, and Biggie Smalls. See, they were talking about uniting, and the government has an ear as to what is going on in our community because there are so-called black men telling them.
Right.
I have a tape